Dio splendido, Dio radioso, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, canta ogni fior di te, canta ogni fior di te. Dio splendido, Dio radioso, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, nelle selve verde sei, nelle selve verde sei, nelle vette ti ergi tu, nelle vette ti ergi tu, nei ruscelli tu sei Gaio, nei ruscelli tu sei Gaio, nell'oceano grave tu sei, nell'oceano grave tu sei, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, canta ogni fior di te, canta ogni fior di te, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, per chi serve sei servizio, per chi serve sei servizio, per chi ama sei l'amor, per chi ama sei l'amor, per chi soffre sei conforto, per chi soffre sei conforto, per lo yogi estasi sei, per lo yogi estasi sei, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, God beautiful, oh God beautiful, at thy feet I do bow, at thy feet I do bow, oh God beautiful, oh God beautiful, oh God beautiful, oh God beautiful, in the forest thou art king, in the forest thou art king, in the mountain thou art high, in the mountain thou art high, in the river thou art restless, in the river thou art restless, in the ocean thou art great, in the ocean thou art great, oh God beautiful, oh God beautiful, oh God beautiful, at thy feet oh I do bow, at thy feet oh I do bow, oh God beautiful, oh God beautiful, oh God beautiful, oh God beautiful, to the service to thou art service, to the service to thou art service, to the lovers thou art love, to the lovers thou art love, to the sorrowful thou art sympathy, to the sorrowful thou art sympathy, to the yogi thou art blessed, to the yogi thou art blessed. Hey Hari Sundara, hey Hari Sundara, hey Hari Sundara, hey Hari Sundara, Tero Charana para Shirana Muen, Tero Charana para Shirana Muen, hey Hari Sundara, hey Hari Sundara, hey Hari Sundara, hey Hari Sundara, Shama la Shama, 𝗘𝗩𝗘𝗡𝗚 unnata sarito sarito chancalo chancalo sarito sarito chancalo chancalo
sagara sagara gambira he hari sagara sagara gambira he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara tericarana parashiranamai tericarana parashiranamai he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara sevaka janake seva seva kara sevaka janake seva seva kara premika janake prema prema kara premika janake prema prema kara dukhi janake hari vedana vedana dukhi janake vedana vedana jogi janake ananda he hari jogi janake ananda he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara tere charana parashiranamai tere charana parashiranamai he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara bana bana me shamala shama bana bana me shamala shama 𝗘𝗩𝗘𝗡𝗚 unnata unnata 𝗘𝗩𝗘𝗡𝗚 unnata unnata sarito sarito chancalo chancalo sarito sarito chancalo chancalo sagara sagara gambira he hari sagara sagara gambira he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara tere charana parashiranamai tere charana parashiranamai he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara he hari sundara sevaka janake seva seva kara sevaka janake seva seva kara premika janake prema prema kara premika janake prema prema kara dukhi janake hari vedana vedana dukhi janake vedana vedana jogi janake ananda he hari jogi janake ananda he hari hari sundara he hari sundara Dio splendido Dio radioso canta ogni fior di te canta ogni fior di te Dio splendido Dio radioso Dio splendido Dio radioso nelle sende verde nelle sende verde nelle vette di ergi tu nelle vette di ergi tu nei ruscelli tu sei Gaio nei ruscelli tu sei Gaio nell'oceano grave tu sei nell'oceano grave tu sei Dio splendido Dio radioso Dio splendido Dio radioso
canta ogni fior di te, canta ogni fior di te, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, per chi serve sei servizio, per chi serve sei servizio, per chi ama sei l'amore, per chi ama sei l'amore, per chi soffre sei conforto, per chi soffre sei conforto, per lo yogi estasi sei, per lo yogi estasi sei, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, canta ogni fior di te, canta ogni fior di te, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, Dio splendido, Dio radioso, Dio splendido, Dio radioso.
Welcome everybody to the celebration of All Saints, and to you that are following us online. Even if it's a Christian feast, we have thought to extend it to all the saints and sages of all religions, in all the spiritual paths. But what do they have so special, the saints? What do they have so different from other people? There are so many answers to that. And there is one that I would love to give tonight with a little story. One day, in a particular home, there was a master with his disciples, and he was there to give a great teachings, Upadesha, and all the disciples were there and were listening to him with opened eye, really concentrating on what he was saying. Then at a certain point, there was an incredible noise, a boom, real big. Taken by fear, all the disciples got up and ran away outside. And as they were outside, they looked around and they saw the master wasn't with him. So after a little bit that they saw the situation was quiet, they went back inside. And they saw that the master was sitting quietly, and they went close and they said, "Master, didn't you escape yourself?" And master said, "Yes, I did, but we didn't see you. I was escaping inside." Yes, that's what saints and sages have done. They've escaped inside of themselves. And they live naturally and spontaneously, without any effort, always in their interior, inside themselves. And we too, we know how to do that. We have learned this art, but we don't succeed to remain there always, during all the moments in our lives, in all the circumstances. But if we're here, it's because in the depth of our hearts all of us, we just want to learn this art, to live always more in God, in a very aware way. And when we are in with the Master, there were some moments really intense. He was giving very elevated teachings, but there were also some moments where we were laughing together with him. And he was transmitting this pure joy, the joy of someone who lives in union with God. And that's what we want to do tonight. We'll be in this evening with the company of sages and saints, and we'll hear some very inspiring stories, and some of them amusing. We'll go for a journey in the saints' dimension, a dimension where everything is possible, but truly everything. Do not get amazed from what you're going to hear. And now, great souls, we're going to list these blessed stories. In the middle of 1800, not very far from Calcutta, there was a temple dedicated to Mother Kali, the very terrible mother. Images of her with a tongue outside, with this necklace of skulls, with a sword, dancing on corpses. And then there was one day a yogi torn in love with his mother. But he cannot see. He sees her very attractive, welcoming him, and his love was growing and growing. He was arriving to a level almost of possession, and he was released. So he was asking her to reveal herself. Mother, please reveal yourself. And he was seeing a very strange light in his eyes. And he was running. He only had a thought, I want to see the mother. Where are you, mother? You said that you're omnipresent in every point of creation. But I can't see you. And one day, with this anguish of not being separated from his mother, he was in the temple. He was seeing a sword at the wall, a sword with which she was killing the ignorant beings. He wanted to say, in his ecstasy of devotion, if you're not going to reveal yourself, I'm going to kill myself. In this moment, there was an incredible light, infinite, cosmic. His consciousness was expansing in the infinite, and the infinite was appearing like the form of the mother, and it was revealing in front of himself the great cosmic mother in the infinite light, but also in the form. The mother was telling him, remain on the earth, because his soul was already free. After this experience, everywhere he was going, he was only seeing the mother. He was constantly in ecstasy. People thought he was going crazy. But one day it happened that he was close to the Ganges River in Calcutta. That's where, before the ocean, it's really large. He was there in ecstasy, thinking to the mother, united with her. And there was arriving a very small boat with a very big sadhu inside, with very long hair, dreadlocks, very strong eyes. He was arriving to the shore, and he was seeing this young, delicate boy with this splendid face, and this great yogi. He was an Advaita who was believing in non-dualism. There is no God in form, only the infinite cosmic consciousness. All the forms in the whole world is nothing but an illusion. There is only Brahman. He was laughing of the people he was adoring, gods in this form and the other, was singing and dancing. He found that ridiculous. They were still thinking about the forms of the divine, and he was seeing this young boy with this incredible light. He was gone to him, and because he could see his potential, and he was asking him, "Have you heard of Brahman?" He was asking him of the non-dual consciousness. And this boy, this innocent boy, yes, I heard. Yes, I heard speaking, but I know nothing. Do you want me to teach you? First, he said, I have to ask my mother. So and this sadhu thought, well, how come he's going to ask his father? He's a grown-up boy. And so he came back and he said, my mother told me you're a great yogi and it's good to learn from you, so teach me of the Param Brahman, of the infinite. And so Tadapuri, this yogi, very famous yogi, was teaching him that the whole world is illusion, everything is Maya. In truth, there is nothing, it's all an apparition. There is only a unique cosmic consciousness. What you have to do is void your head of every kind of thought. You have to be totally still. Can you do that? Yes, my mother gave me the permission, I can do it. Yes, I can completely stop my mind and completely be in silence. But my mother remains there. She's always there. And the yogi said, no, let this mother go, just go beyond. And the boy was saying, no, I can't go beyond the mother. At a certain point, he said, concentrate to the spiritual eye. He was pushing a piece of glass in his forehead. Concentrate. And Ramakrishna, I'm speaking about him, he was seeing in front of his eyes mentally the mother and discernment, and with his sword he was cutting the mother in two. Mother gave me the permission to learn, and he entered in the 𝗟𝗘𝗚𝗡 samadhi, a state of infinite consciousness, and he was remaining for hours and hours still, without moving, without breath, without the heart beating. And the other one was saying, how come you can do it? It takes a life to preparation to reach that. How can you do it in this elevated state? And I had to work all my life for that, 400 years or more. It passed the day, the night. There was a hut nearby. He was closing him in during the night. And when in the morning, he was sitting there without any movement, without breath, without heart beating. And the yogi said, no, that's not normal. This man is really special. So he was knowing from scriptures that if a yogi remains for 3 days in this state, he will leave his body, he will not come any longer. So he was starting to give him some food in his mouth. And after a while, he was starting to eat, to swallow that. And then he was chanting in his ear, Hari Om, and very slow, Ramakrishna was coming back. But for many days, he was still in a semi-trance. And Totapuri recognized him as a very free soul from the very beginning of his existence. Afterwards, Ramakrishna, sorry, this story hasn't finished yet, because afterwards, Ramakrishna, when he came back into his body, he went again into the temple to speak with the mother. And the yogi said he had the most sublime experiences still going to the temple to speak with the mother. And then Totapuri just became sick with dysentery, quite serious one. And he was saying that he couldn't meditate in the body. My body doesn't allow me to be in the consciousness. So maybe I'm just going to let the body go. I'll go in the Ganga and let it go. But he couldn't quite do it. He couldn't abandon his body. And Ramakrishna was laughing. And Ramakrishna was laughing, saying, "You're still under the control of the Great Mother." So in a way, Ramakrishna became his master. And before was vice versa. And Ramakrishna was going through all these different religious paths, Christian, Muslims. Jesus appeared to him, Muhammad, Buddha. He was entering the void in the consciousness of the Buddha. He did all the different paths. The god Hanuman was becoming him. He was becoming a Shakta. He did all the paths. And he understood that in every path, at the end, there is only one and only consciousness, absolute one. One day, a few years later, a young boy arrived to him who was very brilliant. He was chanting like a young god. And one day when he was coming back, come to me and come here where nobody can see us. He was closing the door and he said, "Finally you have arrived. I've arrived. I've waited for you all my life. Finally you're here." This young boy was thinking, this guy is totally crazy, what is he saying? After a little bit, he was coming back and he thought, I'm not going to go to him any longer. But he was still feeling this strong attraction in his heart, so he was going back to him. And then again, he was saying, "Come into my room." And he was going totally into ecstasy. And this young boy was asking himself, what is he experimenting? What is he feeling? And he asked him, because this boy was not so critical, but he wasn't believing in things so easily. And he asked a few people, "Have you seen God?" And everybody was saying, "Yes, God is this, God is that." So he was letting it go. But he asked Ramakrishna, "Have you seen God?" "Yes, much clearer, much more real, as I'm seeing you in this very moment with an incredible certainty." And afterwards, Ramakrishna, who was sitting on a bed, touched the boy with the right toe into the heart, and this young boy entered in ecstasy. And he left the conscious of his body. He entered in this incredible conscious, this infinite ocean. And afterwards he was saying, "My name is Narendra, my father is this person, I'm an individual person. I cannot get lost in the infinite consciousness." So he came back, shocked by this experience that he was transferred by Ramakrishna. This young boy afterwards became the famous 𝗦𝗣𝗘𝗙𝗓, who was in India, everybody knows him, who was a very first yogi who arrived in the West and shared the dualism, the yoga. There was another young boy who was a teacher, a school professor in Calcutta. One day he was fighting with his wife, and his friends told him, "Just go, there is that temple, go and walk there, there is a great saint there, go there in that park, you get calmer." He was going in this park and he wasn't interested in these paramahansa, in these saints, he just wanted to be quiet. But he met this man just normally dressed with a dhoti, with a little jacket, with a bit of beard. He imagined a saint Paramahansa really dressed as a saint with long hair, but he was dressed like a normal man, but he had a very particular light. And then he met him and asked him, "And where is this Paramahansa? Can you tell me?" And Ramakrishna answered, "No, I don't know, but you can sit here with me, you can talk together." So they started talking. "But you believe in God with form or without form?" And he was saying, "Without form, the boy." But where is God? God is everywhere. So in this temple of Mother Kali, so he's also there. Or is he just an exception and is not here? Yes, sure, it's also in the temple. So why don't you go into the temple and you kneel in front of Mother? And so he remained. And he went away and he thought, what a strange character. I'll never come back here. But in his heart, he was feeling some very particular attraction, something that maybe you have felt sometimes, maybe when you've come here or some other place, something that the soul is really longing for, that he wants to be in a certain atmosphere. And so after a few Sundays, he went back there. Ramakrishna was surrounded by all the young boys of the university, 20 years old, 8 years old, Vivekananda and others, and he was just telling some stories, even jokes, and while he was in ecstasy and he was singing. He was telling a story that there was once a Brahmin in the temple. There was a swan who was always drinking the milk in the temple, but the Brahmin was putting opium in the milk. So the swan, he always drinking the milk with opium, so he was becoming dependent. He had to go back every day to drink it. And then he was saying, in a short while the swan is going to come. So the swan came in and the body entered. So the professor entered and everybody was laughing and said, "There is the swan," because he was drugged, drugged by the love of God. And this was Master Marshaya, autobiography of a yoga, was saying Yogananda has such a great love for him. And he wrote the book, The Testament of Sri Ramakrishna. At the end, Ramakrishna had a very particular thing. He was smoking cigarettes, a pipe with tobacco and water, and he adored eating. So often in the satsang, he was married, but he was going to his wife, and he was saying, "What have you done today for dinner?" And the wife, she was really often angry at him. You cannot do this all the time. It's not very appropriate for a saint to be so hungry all the time. So at a certain point she was really screaming at him, but he was answering, "The day when I have no desires for food, I only have 3 days to live." So one day, many years later, she was bringing him the thali, the plate with all the sauces to eat. And he didn't want it, and she started to cry. And 3 days after, he left his body. He was considered an avatar in the Dwapara Yoga in this era, the first one who broke the ice and showed the unity of all the religions. And his great emissary, Vivekananda, he broke the ice in the West. He brought this first wave. After Yogananda, he created his work on this one, so we have lots of love and gratitude to him. Thank you.
Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi. Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma. Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Durga Ma, Ma, Jaya Durga Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Durga Ma, Ma, Jaya Durga Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Durga Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Durga Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Durga Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Durga Devi, Jaya Ma, Jai Lakshmi Ma, Ma, Jai Lakshmi Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Lakshmi Ma, Ma, Jai Lakshmi Ma, Jaya Ma, Jai Lakshmi Devi, Jai Jaya Ma, Jai Lakshmi Devi, Jaya Ma, Jai Lakshmi Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jai Lakshmi Devi, Jaya Ma, Jai Uma Ma, Ma, Jaya Uma Ma, Jaya Ma, Jai Uma Ma, Ma, Jaya Uma Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Uma Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Uma Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Uma Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Uma Devi, Jaya Ma, Jai Parvati Ma, Ma, Jai Parvati Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Parvati Ma, Ma, Jai Parvati Ma, Jaya Ma, Jai Parvati Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jai Parvati Devi, Jaya Ma, Jai Parvati Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jai Parvati Devi, Jaya Ma, Jai Gauri Ma, Ma, Jai Gauri Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Gauri Ma, Ma, Jai Gauri Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Gauri Devi, Jai Jai Ma, Jai Gauri Devi, Jai Ma, Jai Gauri Devi, Jai Jai Ma, Jai Gauri Devi, Jai Ma, Jai Kali Ma, Ma, Jai Kali Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Kali Ma, Ma, Jai Kali Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Kali Devi, Jai Jai Ma, Jai Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jai Kali Devi, Jai Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jai Ma, Jai Durga Devi, Jai Jai Ma, Jaya Durga Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Lakshmi Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Lakshmi Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Uma Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Uma Devi, Jaya Ma, Jai Parvati Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Parvati Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Gauri Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Gauri Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Durga Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Lakshmi Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Uma Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Parvati Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Gauri 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 Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma. Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi, Jaya Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Devi. Jaya Ma, Jaya Kali Ma, Jaya Kali Ma.
The life of saints often leave us a little bit uncertain because in them it emerges in amazing perfection that sometimes we feel a bit far from that beauty, from that perfection, and we don't know how to relate to that, how to bring that example in our life. But saints are normal people like us. It's only that at a certain point they chose God because they were happier. And the story that I want to tell you, it's about doing the will of God, which is a very fundamental thing on the spiritual path. Only that also here to do God's will sound very difficult and things that usually we don't like. But also that thought, we have to put it aside. But what we don't understand is that God only asks us our courageous yes. The rest, He's gonna do it. But when we give Him this yes, He's elevating us to incredible heights that in human consciousness we can't even imagine. And this can fill you of an incredible joy when you have the right attitudes. And this we can see in this next story about Mother Teresa of Calcutta. We are in 1946 and Teresa, she was about 36 years old. Since 15 years he was a nun. He was teaching with a great success in a school, the nuns of Loreto. He was teaching geography to the girls of the high middle class in Calcutta. So the day he was at the station in Calcutta and he was waiting for the train to Darjeeling when the Christ appeared to her and told her, Teresa, do you want to be my fire of love for the poor, for the lost people on earth, for the abandoned people in the middle of the road? I know that you feel inadequate for this. You feel weak. But see, they don't know me. You gotta go amongst them. Do you want to bring my light, Teresa? And Teresa said, yes, Lord, be your will done. And she didn't preoccupy of anything because it was quite a complicated thing. So first of all, how she was going to say to Mother Superior, because Jesus told her not to say to anybody of this dialogue. But she couldn't remain in that congregation to help poor people. She had to leave, and Mother Superior could have said, as she said, just go. But Mother Teresa, she wanted to remain a nun, as she didn't worry about that. She didn't worry that she didn't have any money, she didn't have any rupees, she didn't have a place where to welcome these dying people. She didn't worry about anything because Jesus took care of everything. So after a little bit, after this very important episode in her life, after this very important call, something happened. She was walking in the streets of Calcutta when at a certain point her attention was attracted by a woman who was in the middle of the dirt. She was really sick. There was an incredible stink that was coming out of this woman, and she said it's the most horrible thing that I ever saw. She couldn't stand the sight of lepers. It's a normal reaction that a normal being can have as a first reaction in a version, naturally, from a natural human point of view. Yes, I do like this story because we can identify with that. So she almost escaped from this, but she had said yes to the Lord. And within her, a very strength was growing, and that strength stopped her. She couldn't even get to the corner of that street. The cry stopped her. And she looks around, and she saw there was so many other people, sick people, dying people, abandoned in the streets, and she felt such an incredible strength that she went back, and she went back to this leper. And we must remember that leprosy is very contagious, and it was an incredible stench, but this incredible strength inward was helping her to go beyond all this. And her with this, and she with this dying woman, she went to a hospital, but she wasn't welcome, and she tried a few hospitals, and everybody was refusing her. And Mother Teresa, she found a room, a private room. She took care of this person who was anyway dying, but there she understood the work that Christ wanted to do through her. And she said, I really understood what is my place in the last people on this earth. And then we know her story. I really like this story because it's so important to remember that when Lord is asking us for something, we need to say yes right away without thinking. He will be the one able to give us the strength, the capacity, the means. He will take care of everything because the project of life can be realized. And it was Jesus who later become Mother Teresa, a mother of compassion, a channel of love for everyone. And so, the Lord at a certain point asks us, do you want to have faith in me? Do you want to do something for me? I provide everything, but do you want to give me your yes? And then there is an ending of the prayer of Yogananda who says, through the transparencies of your smile, my son, my light will always come to help you. Just give me your yes, only that. So we all know Father Pio, an Italian saint of the 20th century, a great saint. Like masters, the great masters of any religion or path, it doesn't matter which one, who have realized God, they all have the same identical power. And Father Pio, he had lots of it. And I can tell you 4 stories, also funny ones. The first story says, a devotee, every night she wasn't going to sleep if she wasn't say this prayer, this mantra: Father, I entrust you all my children. And so every day before going to sleep, she always had this prayer: Father, I entrust you all my children. And so, day after day, month after month, year after year, she was repeating every night this prayer. One day, she went to visit Father Pio in San Giovanni Rotondo, and she succeeded in meeting him, because you know that Father Pio, when he was in San Giovanni Rotondo, he had crowds of people looking for him, but she succeeded in meeting him. She was in front of him. Father Pio looked at her and she told him, Father, I entrust you all my children to you. Father Pio looked at her and said, my sister, but are 3 years that you're always saying the same thing. I already know this. And so that's how he answered. Another story of a woman who had a tumor at an arm. So she talked with her daughter, and agreeing with her, she said, we need to have it operated, to have a surgery. So let's go for this surgery. The son-in-law right away sent a telegram to Father Pio saying of his mother-in-law who had this tumor at the arm. When Father Pio read this telegram, this woman, she was in Bologna, inside her daughter's house, in the living room. She was alone, and suddenly the door opened and a Capuchin friar came in, and he stepped in front of her, and he said, I am Father Pio by Pietrelcina. And she looked and she was stunned. And he said, what did the doctor say about this sickness? And she explained everything. And he looked at her and he said, you have to pray to Mother Mary and trust in her. And then he did a cross, or he made a cross on his arm. He waved and he left. The woman, by the way, left the room and called her daughter and the son-in-law and said, why didn't you tell me that Father Pio was coming here? But excuse me, you could have told me. Who? Father Pio? But we haven't opened to anybody, it's impossible. And so everybody was really stunned. The day after she had to have surgery, she went to hospital and she had a checkup, and the cancer was totally gone, was vanished. She didn't have anything anymore. So Father Pio had this amazing power. All the saints have done these miracles of healing. He could biolocate himself too. Like the great masters who read the autobiography, you can listen to these stories of the saints. Another story, interesting one and funny. There was this devotee who had a great migraine, really strong. And so she thought to pray Father Pio, and she realized that I'm going to put one of his photos under my pillow when I go to sleep. And then she prayed to help her, and for this migraine, very strong migraine I have in my head. She was going to sleep, but the migraine wasn't going away. She was continuing, days were passing, but the migraine was always there. So this woman had quite a strong temper. She was quite fiery. So one night she went to sleep, and she took the photo and she said, "You're not gonna let go of my migraine. I'm just gonna put you under the mattress, and so I punish you enough." And so she did. One day she went to visit Father Pio in San Giovanni Rotondo, and she had to confess, and there was a huge line of people trying to confess with him. So it was her turn. She sat down, and Father Pio, from his little confessional window, as soon as he saw her, he closed the window very strongly, and this woman was totally stunned without any words, and she was totally paralyzed, silent. And then he opened the window again. He smiled and told her, you didn't like this. So, why did you put the photo under the mattress? I didn't like that either. So the masters, they know everything. Also, Yogananda once said to Swami Kriyananda, "I know all of your thoughts." Masters, they know all the action, all the thoughts of their devotees, even if they're not present with the physical body. Another story. There was a devotee from Switzerland. This is nice too. Who came to Father Pio. She was very truly devotee. She went to visit him. All of you know that when he was doing the mass, he was going to the convent, and from his window, from his cell, he was open the window of the cell, and all the devotees in front of him, and he was waving with a small handkerchief, white handkerchief. He was waving at everybody. And this woman was coming from Switzerland, a strong devotee. Within herself, she was saying, "I want a great wave, a great welcome only for me." And she was repeating, "I want you to say hello to me in a very big way." And she was looking forward to be in front of him, to see from his window while he was waving. So she went there. So there were all the devotees in front, and the window was closed. So she asked, and people said no, he was already waved, and he went to rest now. And she was so sorry. Oh, what a pity. So all the people were still kneeling, and she kneeled and she prayed Father Pio, and she said again, "I want a great wave, a great hello for me, just for me." And then suddenly the little window opened, and Father Pio came. He could see there. And then suddenly it took away a very strong, a very huge bedsheet, and everybody was totally stunned. And they thought he went crazy. How come he's doing that? And this woman understood that this great wave was only for her. Hello.
Quando penso di sante,
When I think of saints,
io penso di nostri sentieri.
I think of our path. I can't avoid that because it's a part of me.
Mi piace fare la paragona.
I like to compare
Gli insegnamenti
the teachings of the West
gli insegnamenti
and the teachings of the East.
il mio santo preferito
My favorite saint
Francesco,
is Saint Francis of Assisi
che per me
because
lui viveva
he was truly living in super consciousness with everything, with every word,
escono dalla sua
with
bocca.
every word was coming out of his mouth. It was full of joy. It was full of love.
Quando lui ha cominciato la sua missione,
When he started his mission, a few people
pensavano che fosse matto.
were thinking that he was totally crazy.
Dopo poco tempo,
But after a little bit, they realized
lui viveva
that he was living in joy,
la gioia di Dio.
in the divine joy, the joy of God.
E loro volevano seguirlo.
And they wanted to follow him.
Perché quando loro erano con lui,
Because when they were with him, they could feel this joy.
loro volevano avere.
This was the joy they wanted to have.
Lui viveva a San Francesco.
He was living
Invece di un
in the open air instead than in a monastery.
era una cosa grande, perché sì,
It was a great thing
vedere la superconscienza
because
in azione.
if you could see superconsciousness in action, people could see that superconsciousness in action in front of them. He was teaching
Con esempio, come
with examples
anche
how to live,
i scritti.
but also with scriptures.
Gli scritti più fidabili era i scritti dei frati
The scriptures that he was reading mostly were of the friars. They were very close to him, their writings, and especially like the writings of Friar Leo. He was a very faithful disciple.
e loro avevano conversazioni fra loro.
And they had a few conversations
E
amongst
Francesco
them.
sempre
And
disse:
Francesco always said,
"Leone, scrivere questo."
Friar
E
Leone,
questa lezione è
write this.
perché al tempo di San
And this lesson is for us because at the time of Saint Francis, things weren't printed. And for us to be able to read and hear more than 800 years later is amazing.
una conversazione che mi piace tanto,
A conversation I really like
che Francesco aveva con
that Francis had with Friar Leone
quando Francesco
when Francis asked the Friar Leone, do you know
il più grande attributo
what is the great attribute of God? This time, Friar Leone thought that he knew the answer.
era sbagliato.
Usually he was mistaken, but this time he thought, yes, I do know it.
E amore.
It's love.
E Francesco
And Francesco just denied that. No. And so he was a bit confused, and he said a few other attributes: peace, joy, wisdom. And to all of them, Francesco denied them. He said no. Finally, Fra Leone said to Francesco, for the love of God, tell me this answer. Which one is the greatest attribute God has? And Francesco went into ecstasy because he was always doing that. When he was alone with other persons or friends, he tried to hide that. He tried to hide this bliss. But with Leone, he could express that. He could express because they were very close. And so he said in ecstasy, the greatest attribute God has, the most beautiful pearl, the most precious gem in his crown is patience. I felt so much joy while listening to this story because I've understood, because also Master says we cannot oblige someone to follow God. God cannot force anybody to do that. God goes to Him. We are free to discern what we really want, to decide that. So God is waiting for us, and Master says that God sometimes waits for 1,000 lives for us to go to Him. It depends on us. The magic word is discernment. It's a word from the Bible, from the Old Bible. The Old Bible, and means to choose the right thing, choose the spiritual thing, choose the goodness instead than evil, to choose the permanent things instead than temporary things, to choose to meditate instead than watching TV. These are the choices that can get us closer to God or further away from God. But God doesn't abandon us. He's always with us. He's whispering in our ears. He comes close to us in our dreams. He tries to influence us, but we need to listen. We need to knock at the door, and God will open the door. So God is with us always. He doesn't leave us, never. But He's also waiting for us with patience, for us to get to Him. When I felt this patience, I understood God's love that is so immense because it's with us and is also waiting for us. It's with us always, but we don't see that truth. We feel we are separate most of the time. God is waiting for us. This is the most beautiful thing. In every circumstance, He is waiting for us. He will wait for us for the whole of eternity.
Esser turbato, non temere, tutto cambia, ma Dio resterà. La perseveranza porta vittoria, in Dio non c'è nulla che ti mancherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà.
Non esser turbato, non temere, tutto cambia ma Dio resterà. La perseveranza porta vittoria, in Dio non c'è nulla che ci mancherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Non esser turbato, non temere, tutto cambia ma Dio resterà. La perseveranza porta vittoria, in Dio non c'è nulla che ci mancherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Non esser turbato, non temere, tutto cambia ma Dio resterà. La perseveranza porta vittoria, in Dio non c'è nulla che ci mancherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Let nothing disturb you, nothing affright you, all things will pass, but God changes not. Patience, endurance brings you to victory. Once you have God, you want nothing more. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. Let nothing disturb you, nothing affright you, all things will pass, but God changes not. Patience, endurance brings you to victory. Once you have God, you want nothing more. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. Non esser turbato, non temere, tutto cambia ma Dio resterà. La perseveranza porta vittoria, in Dio c'è nulla che ci mancherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Non esser turbato, non temere, tutto cambia ma Dio resterà. La perseveranza porta vittoria, in Dio non c'è nulla che ti mancherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà. Solo Dio, solo Dio, solo Dio ci appagherà.
Up to now, you'll heard maybe all the saints that you know. Now there is a saint that you maybe haven't heard. His name is Tukaram. He's a saint of 1,600 in Maharashtra. He was known like a saint who was living totally in God. This evening is called To Live in God. All the saints live in God, and they are so magnetic. They speak, they preach. His characteristic was he was chanting, and not only he was standing and he was dancing with his symbols, and he was not indifferent. If you were close to him, you were feeling electrified, taken by his magnetism. You were feeling the presence of God with you, and everybody was electrified in his presence. So one day, one of his friends told him, please do a Maha Kirtan for us, a great Kirtan for us. And they invited an ocean of people. And then this evening arrived, there was an incredible crowd. And he entered in his ecstasy, and God was so close, and he was singing, and this was his chant, more or less. He adored Krishna. One of the name of Krishna is Vital or Vitala, and another one is Panduranga. And he was chanting this and tried to chant with me. So one sings, the other repeat. Hands up, this side upward, and look at the divine presence. And he was in ecstasy and he was dancing. And 2-3 hours passed, and people, one after another, look at how we are, they were getting tired, one after another, and they left. And he didn't realize that he was in his ecstasy. And the dawn came, and he was he opened his eyes for the first time. He saw there was one person all, and he was so happy. Oh, you love God as I do. What a great person. And this other one, and the other one a bit upset. Do you know why I'm here? Because you're standing on my blanket. The whole night I just couldn't leave without my blanket. Give me my blanket. I have to go home. So the moral is, if you truly want to go towards God, in between 1,000 people, only one is looking for God. Even if you're alone in a village, who's following more than you do, the more you intensely follow the path, the more you're alone. You need to keep there is the hand of all these brothers. Another story. He was married, and he was also, he had a family, he was a businessman. And then he was mostly selling sugar canes. It was a terrible year. There was drought everywhere. And his wife, who was not a devotee, she was very upset with him. You're always with this God, with this chance. When are you gaining some more money? Look at our son. Look at our family. And he said, okay, I have a small farm. I'm going to get all these sugar canes, I'm going to sell them. And so we have a bit of money not to die of hunger. So he went to the farm. He took the sugar cane from the farm, and he saw a beggar who had nothing. And then he gave his first sugarcane harvests to him. And then there was another beggar. There was a merchant who couldn't sell anything, so he gave another cane, and another one who was needing it, another again, and finally he only remained with only one sugarcane, and he went back home with that. And the wife was absolutely furious. What are you doing? This is all we have. And he attacked her husband, and just took the sugar cane and broke it in 3 pieces, and took her and said, so see how God is, the goodness of God. First there was 1 can only, now there are 3 pieces, 1 for you, 1 for me, 1 for our son. So we're fine, nobody's going to die of hunger. With God's vision, all the most difficult situations, they can become right for its goodness. We're going to finish the evening with the story of another saint, 𝗟𝗜𝗩𝗘. If you go to India, in the north of India, in Maharashtra, in a village that is called 𝗘𝗩𝗘𝗡, there on the shore of the river 𝗘𝗩𝗘𝗡, there is a wooden temple which has the samadhi of this great saint, who is in the heart of so many people. And there are 2 qualities of the soul that he was incarnating. One was the determination, the spiritual path, and an incredible goodness. And then I tell you just a couple of little stories about these qualities. 𝗟𝗑𝗪𝗓 remained an orphan when he still was a child, and he was growing up with his grandfather and grandmother, and he wanted to listen one day a spiritual talk, and a pandit was saying how it's important to have a guru, how life cannot be complete without a guru. From that moment on, Eknath, he only wanted to meet his guru. He wasn't thinking about anything else. He only wanted to meet his guru. He was not much older than 6 years old, and one day he went to the temple and he heard a voice, "Go to Devagiri, to Swami Jianatha." And Eknath, he got up without saying anything to anybody, without waving to anybody. He started to walk towards Devagiri to meet his guru. And this was a village who was about 60 kilometers far away. In those times, the only means was walking. So, and he went through a forest full of terrible animals, but he only wanted to meet his guru. When finally was in front of his house, his helper stopped him and they said, "Swami only receives on Thursday, so you have to wait that day." He had arrived with nothing. He had nothing to eat. He didn't know where to sleep, so he slept on a wooden trunk, and he ate what he found. And when Thursday arrived, there was an incredible crowd of people who were going to the Swami to talk about his problems, his difficulties, to ask for suggestions. And he was listening to one after another until it became evening. Everybody was gone. And Eknath was the only remained. He was at the end of the room with his folded hands, and the Swami told him, "Come closer." He did. And then he asked him, "What do you want?" Eknath looked at him, "I want you." The Swami, he was totally stunned. There was nobody in years who had asked that. Everybody wanted to have their problems solved, their difficulties. So he embraces him really strongly and called his wife. And he said, after this, Eknath is going to live with us. And he was doing everything for the Guru for years, always with attention towards the Guru, with so much determination was burning inside of him. Only this great love for his Guru. There were many years in the house of his Guru, until one day his Guru told him, "Now is the right for you to enter the Grihastha ashram, so the life of a family." In the meantime, Krishna arrived in the dream of a Brahmin and told him to go to Eknath. So the Guru had Eknath going back to his village, and he got married. He had 2 daughters and 1 son. And even if his situation had totally changed, inside of him, he was always the same. He was always with God, with his Guru, and he never felt any separation. But Eknath, he was very unorthodox, and he was against the dogmas. He was going against them. For him, everybody was equal. There was no caste. And he was also teaching the scriptures in the Marathi language. So everybody was loving him. And they were leaving even the identification with the body. So the pandits and the Brahmins of the village had for him quite a hate. They were trying to obstacle him. Once there was a period that there was a monsoon and there was no dry wood nowhere, and wood was used to cook. So 4 sannyasin arrived in the village looking for food, and these Brahmins, envious and hostile to Eknath, and they told them to go to Eknath. because they thought he could never find some dry wood. But Ēknat, he broke in pieces his own bed to cook to this sannyasin for this venerable guest. Then once it happened in the village, there was a Brahmin who needed 200 rupees for a ceremony for his own son. So the pandits told him, if you will succeed in getting Ēknat angry, we will give you these 200 rupees. But they thought it's not very difficult to do that, so they told him where he was living. And so he entered in the house without knocking and went into the puja room without shoes, which was a real outrage. It was really a terrible thing to do. And he found Ēknat was totally absorbed in his meditation. He was not at all disturbed by all the noise he was making. So he sat in his lap. He was trying to make him angry. And Ēknat opened his house and he saw this stranger in his lap. And he said, you don't even know me and you demonstrate so much affection towards me. Stop and eat with us. And first we can go and bathe in the river. And this Brahmin, while they were in the river, so the Brahmin thought, I'm going to take a lot of time, so I'm going to make him really hungry. So it took a long time, but that didn't work either. Ēknat patiently was waiting for him. They arrived home, they sit at the table, and the Brahmin thought, I really have to do something quite terrible so he could get angry. And so he thought. So while the wife was giving the food, he just jumped onto his back. Ēknat opened the eyes and said, my dear, don't get up. He went on the back of the wife. Don't get up, because and he said to the wife to knock it up so our guest can fall. And the wife said, sure, I learned that when our child was small. And the Brahmin was so moved, he started to cry. And then the Brahmin told him the whole story, that the Brahmins had promised him 200 rupees if he was succeeding in making him angry. And Ēknat said, why didn't you tell me before, so I could have got angry before? So he went to get the 200 rupees and gave them to him. He couldn't get angry. He could see all the other beings on the earth like himself. It was like if the tongue could get angry with the teeth while they bite it. So he was seeing everything one. And so Krishna was loving so much this devotee that one day decided to appear like a servant and be at the service of Ēknat in his own home. And Krishna, the light of the world, whose feet are adored by so many rishis, he took the presence of a boy and worked as a servant in Ēknat's home for 12 years. And grace to his power, Ēknat never realized that until one day Krishna's wife appeared in a dream of a Brahmin who was praying to meet Krishna, and told this Brahmin, go to Paidan, go to Ēknat's house. Krishna is there since 12 years and is working there as his servant. So he went there, he arrived in Ēknat's house, Gnat welcomed him and then asked him, "Why did you come here?" The Brahmin said, "I arrived here to have a darshan of Krishna." Gnat looked at him and he said, "But Krishna is everywhere. There is not a place where Krishna is not. He resides in all the atoms of the universe. Why did you come here to get Krishna's darshan?" And the Brahmin interrupted him and said, "I want to see Krishna in a human form. His wife has appeared to me in a dream. And she told me that he's working here in your house since 12 years. Gnat was shocked by his words and called his servant. He went to look for him, but he couldn't find him anywhere. And suddenly Krishna appeared into all his splendor, more brighter than 1,000 suns. And the Brahman kneeled at his feet. Gnat embraced him and told him, "Krishna, I'm so sorry that I fatigue you so much. I asked you so many things to do. This is not something you should do to me. You should do. What kind of value do I have that you did this thing?" And he was kneeling, saying this. And Krishna looked at him and said, "Blessed is your bhakti, your devotion." And he vanished. And it is that the incredible power that our devotion has for God. And this devotion is the most beautiful treasure that the saints have, and they have that in the treasure of their hearts. This devotion, these qualities of the soul that we saw tonight, they are inside of us. They are little seeds of light in our hearts. Some of them, they've already sprouted. Some of them are still small, some of real still seeds, but they're there. And in reality, this journey that we did tonight in the dimension of the sages, it's a journey we've done inside ourselves, because the sages, the saints, show us what is our higher potential, our highest devotion, our true home, where we feel at ease, where we have everything, where nothing is missing. And so if this evening is finishing here, our journey in the sense dimension is continuing. So this prayer is that with the blessing of the masters and of the saints, we too can apprehend the art of living always in the presence of God. And we finish this evening with the chant to Krishna.
Govinda Hare Gopala, Govinda Hare Hare, Govinda Hare Gopala, Govinda Hare Hare, Gopala, Gopala, Govinda Hare Hare, Gopala, Gopala.
Govinda Hare